All right. Well, welcome everyone. I'm excited to be here to spend this time with you today. And thank you to Heather for inviting me inside this community as the branding voice. And it's always an honor to get to share with anybody what I'm passionate about, what I love to do. I could talk way too long about it. So I think that's a sign that we're in the right place, right? So and I love being in Heather's group. This is a great caliber of women who show up in this space and want more and are willing to do the work. So, for those of you who don't know me yet, my name is Heidi Crawford, and I partner with leaders on something I call brand alignment so that their identity and business creates growth that's inevitable. And before I ever stepped into this world, I spent years in corporate banking and marketing, and that background taught me a lot about strategy and positioning and how businesses actually grow. But the most powerful lessons didn't come from corporate. They came from my direct sales business. And I've built and led a team of over 60 women across the United States with my Mary Kay business. And along the way, I noticed something very interesting in that I was surrounded by incredibly capable women, smart women, hardworking women, driven, and they were showing up every single day, except something they were just struggling yet with something. And not because they lacked talent or discipline, and definitely not heart, of course. The real problem was just something much quieter. And there was a disconnect between who they were becoming as leaders and how their brand was showing up in the world. And that's what eventually led me to do the work that I do today. And because most branding conversations focus on logos and colors or social media posts, those things really matter, but they're not the foundation. And the real foundation is alignment. And so I felt like when you are aligned between who you are and what you say, that's when people experience that, or that's what people experience when they encounter you. And that's your digital handshake. And when those things are off even a little bit, it creates something I call the brand gap. And that's what I wanted to share with you today. And I was sharing with Heather that when I popped up on my memories today in social media, I it was so well aligned for the branding gap. I want to share a screen with you of what I was doing 5 years ago and 3 years ago. So 5 years ago puts us really right about COVID time. And so this was something I had done this 5 years ago. And really when we got into sharing on social media, kind of the behind the scenes of what we're doing. And so I had just started branding myself with my name. And if you find me on social media, I do a lot of Heidi Z Crawford. But when Mary Kay transitioned, with some things as I started single and got married, I had to keep my website with the Zeller in there. So I've always kept the Z with me so people don't end up on that corporate branded website and go, well, who's Heidi Zeller? I thought it was with Heidi Crawford. And so I started with this Heidi Z Crawford. And what I really thought about was there's a lot of places that you can get your skincare and glamour from, as well as other consultants in the industry as in. So I need to start branding myself. And then 3 years ago, I evolved into this hot pink because, of course, everything in Mary Kay is pink. And so I started doing that. And so with that, what I realized was I still wasn't setting myself apart. I still wasn't different. I was still aligned in so much of what everybody else was. So that's where I started. And I want to, before I show you where I landed, some of you follow me on social media already. I want to talk more about the branding gap. So I'm going to leave you with kind of a cliffhanger there, how I got started and to give you hope. How's that sound? So today we're going to talk about the branding gap. And I think the branding gap is the space between the leader you believe you are and the signals you're actually sending out there. And that's really the tricky part of your brand, especially when we're in a growing stage. And most people don't even realize it's happening. You might feel confident about the value that you bring. You might know you're great at what you do, and you might even get results from with what you're doing. But when someone encounters your brand for the first time, they don't see all of the context and they see what's visible. And what's visible forms their first impression. And in 3 to 7 seconds is all we have when somebody is scrolling through our pages. And that's what I call the digital handshake. And over the years, I've noticed that most brand gaps show up in three areas. And the first area that they show up in is the identity gap. And this is the difference between who you know you are intentionally or and how confidently that, oh, sorry, not intentionally, internally, who you know internally and how that shows up externally. For example, you might see yourself as a leader, but when someone reads your bio or hears how you describe yourself, you might sound more like a peer. You don't have that level of authority. Or you might have an incredible experience and wisdom, but the way you present it, you might sound hesitant or apologetic. And it's like you're downplaying the very thing that actually makes you valuable. And I see this all the time with women who are in the service industry. They want to help, so they often soften their voice. But leadership requires clarity and confidence, and people are looking to you as the expert in your industry. And when those aren't showing up in your brand, people don't experience you at the level you're actually operating at. So the second gap is the measuring gap. And this is the difference between what you mean and what people actually hear. So you might feel like you're being very clear about what you offer, but from the outside, it can come across as vague or generic. And you might think you're explaining your value, but the person listening may still be wondering what makes you different. And when people can't quickly identify that difference, they default to comparison. And when we compare, we get in a dangerous place for your brand to live, because then people see you one of many options, and it becomes hard for them to choose you. So that's why we really want to have your messaging on point, so they know you are talking to them. They're like, I am in the right place. It feels like she's speaking to me. And then the third gap is the visual gap. And this is where first impressions come into play. And when someone lands on your profile, your website, or even a social media post, they start forming opinions immediately. They notice your photo, they notice your design, they notice how polished or consistent things are. And all of those elements will send signals about your level of professionalism, confidence, and authority. And whether we like it or not, those signals help us in uh, deciding if we want to do some business with somebody in about 3 seconds. So a question I often ask people is, if a stranger landed on your page today, would they see the level you're actually operating at, or would they see an earlier version of you? So how strong is your digital handshake? But I also want to clarify or just give you pause for building forward messy progress. And that's why I wanted to show you what my social media memory showed up where I was 5 years ago and where I was 3 years ago. Could I have moved faster through those stages? Yes. But I didn't know that this was going to be a part of my journey until last year. And so that's when I really started to focus in and dial in on branding ourselves and not the brand we represent. And so um and that's I and how do we don't know what we don't know. Or no, how does this? When we know better, we do better, and we don't know what we don't know until we know it. I think some sort of thing, I say that to a lot. So take the knowledge you learned today and do better with it tomorrow, essentially, is what I'm trying to say in that quirky rumbled sentence I just shared with you. So anyway, but awareness is the first step, that you want to do something different and you want to have real growth. And it's also exactly why I created a few spaces where I go deeper into this work with my clients. And I want to share with you a little bit about those and what you can get from me in those spaces. The first one is brand new. I just launched it this month. It's called the Visual Edit Lab, and it's a place in school. And inside this space, I provide real practical tools that help women bring their brand to life visually, strategically, things like Canva, AI, and Google Forms. It's a content system where you make branding simpler and more aligned. And I want to show you, for example, when we're in there, what you can learn. I was going to go back to sharing my screen here. I'm going to show you a trick today. I figured it's always fun to walk away with a new tip when you're learning something. So things we teach in the Edit Lab would be something like this. And I like to do, I have a Tiptastic Tuesday. So every Tuesday I go live for 30 minutes and I will teach you a level 1 Canva trick. And then I like to do, I don't know if it's level 5 or level 10, but just like something to stretch and go to achieve to, like a goal, like, oh, I'm going to do that sometime. So what I did here today on this screen, I put all these different cups of coffee on here. And so what I'm going to do is I really liked this cup of coffee and the style design there. So what I do is I just click on it and I'm going to go up here to this style and I'm going to copy this style. And then I'm going to click on this cup of coffee and it's going to take a few minutes. but it's gonna make it exactly like that other style of cup of coffee. So all my images look the same and they look aligned. And you can't do this on every image. So if you're struggling, it will have a little pop-up. It'll say not available. So now you have a cup of coffee that looks like this. And I can do the same for this one too. I can click here, click copy art style, and click on this one. And it's going to change that cup of coffee for me too. So just some tricks on how to align when we're talking about things looking the same. It's not you need to have a big bad branding marketing budget. It's just how do I make it look similar and look the same and so everything looks familiar. And so it just easily makes things like that. And then the last little trick I want to show you here is this is called a framework. And frames for pictures come in all different kinds of sizes and shapes. And so you'll see lots of them out there, but grab the coffee one because that's what we're learning here today. So I'm just going to grab my picture and I'm going to put it in the cup of coffee, which is pretty simple. But one of the things, sometimes the picture doesn't land where you want it to do. So you just grab it and then you can move it around within the cup of coffee like that. So something fun that those little tips and tricks that we share over on Canva in the visual edit lab. And then the second way I work with women is in the confidence edit, and that's where we focus more. The visual edit lab. I will put a link in the comments. So right now we have a special pricing. If you want to join it, it's $27 as an introductory special pricing this month. And then it will go up after the introductory pricing is over. So sorry, I forgot to mention that, but I'll put the link in the comments here as well when we open it up for Q&A. The next thing I offer is I work with women through coaching programs, and that's called the Confidence Edit. And that's where we focus more deeply on identity and positioning, where we can do some more internal work that will help you go from simply capable to becoming a commanding presence. And that's where we can get into line. We'll talk about your colors of your brand, why hot pink wasn't my best color. Even though I was branded with that through Mary Kay, I needed to step out of that into something else. And even getting into your fonts and your layouts, things like that. We work together in a group session on a weekly basis to create the best version of you. And even going into things about how to do my 3-post strategy week on grow, give, and genuine methods so you can find the most successful posting for you and a way that you don't feel like you're always having to post content. And then the third way I work with my clients is in the VIP section, and that's the alignment edit. And that's where I provide one-on-one coaching where I partner closely with my leaders and work with them specifically on scaling their brand and their business and their ecosystem so we can work together. So if any of that sparks with you, I will also put how to reach out to me and we can connect over that because I love to have a conversation before you would sign up for any of those bigger opportunities or more intense opportunities to make sure that we're aligned and work well together. So I just think as an entrepreneur, it's nice to have a conversation before you sometimes make some of those more larger investments and commitments. So might find out where you belong, so you don't have to worry about did I make the right choice. So anyway, so let's get back to the branding gap itself. And I want to share with you a 5-minute brand gap check. And then at the end, I'm going to show you a little fun thing of where my brand came from and where we're at now. Since you got to see the before, I sure want to show you the after. So in the brand gap check, I want you to give you a quick exercise that's going to help you start noticing something in your own alignment. And you don't have to share this with anything. I just want you to think about these questions with honestly how you'd answer them yourself. And question number 1 is, how do I describe myself as a leader? And you are a leader in your industry. You showed up here today, and those who show up go up. So give yourself a round of applause for showing up today. So question number 1 is how you describe yourself as a leader. Not your job title and not your company role, but just how you see yourself. And sometimes those words can be really fun. I maybe have a funky sense of humor. Maybe I have a friend that I follow. She always says in her bio, even says occasionally you'll drop an F-bomb or something like that. I mean, that's who you truly are as a leader. So question number 2 is, what result do I believe I create for people? So what result do I believe I create for people? When someone works with you, what changes for them? That's how you can help answer that question. So it's more about what is going to change for somebody when they work with you. And question number 3 is, if a complete stranger looked at my brand today, what would they assume about me in the first 10 seconds? So if a complete stranger looked at my brand today, what would they assume about me in the first 10 seconds? Would they see confidence, authority, or clarity? Or would they see somebody still figuring things out? And we're all on a journey. And if sometimes if we don't have a big enough lens or we can't see that, maybe ask a good friend to quick grab your profile and what do they see? So, and then question 4 is, does my visual presence match the level I'm trying to grow into? Does my visual presence, uh, does my visual presence match the level I'm trying to grow into? Or is it reflecting a version of me from before? And the last question is a big one, especially in direct sales and network marketing. Am I branding myself or am I branding the company I represent? And that's where I came from. As I said before, I needed to separate myself from the corporation that I was associated with. It gave me a lot more freedom and flexibility to share my talents and not to be under the thumb of some of those franchise rules that, or I guess that wasn't a franchise, that's not a franchise, but some of the rules that corporate come along. So whether you're in insurance or financial planning or direct sales or something like oftentimes those companies come along with rules. And so, because those companies are incredible platforms, we want to respect them and what they've brought to our lives. But leaders who grow over time, the most over time, are the ones who develop a clear brand and it's a personal brand alongside the brand they represent. So I'll repeat those questions just real quick in case you didn't get them all written down or you're like, I think I got it right. How do I describe myself as a leader was question number 1. And question number 2 is, what result do I believe I create for people? And question number 3 is, if a complete stranger looked at my brand, what would they assume about me in the first 10 seconds? And question 4 is, does my visual presence match the level I'm trying to grow into? And oh, oh, I thought I had 5 questions. It's only 4. So, okay, so I'm going to go back to showing you. I showed you where I came from, so I'm going to grab that screen back and I want to show you where I ended up. Oops. Okay. Okay. So through my process of branding myself and not the brand I represent, I discovered that I have a powerful story to tell. Along with loving my other business that I still run, I love helping women brand themselves. And so through some color analyzations and stuff like that, I found out that actually navy blue is my best black. So when I'm using my predominant color of choice, I'm going to pick navy, and then my accent colors align with what I am in my season and my colors. So some of that is really important when you're picking out branding and colors and how you want to accent, because if you're going to use your face and share with you, you're going to want to make sure those colors complement you. So that's why things like a true white or an ecru white or a cream white all come into play and are important. And those are things we cover in the confidence edit or my VIP. But some of those things you'll get tips on and stuff in the edit or the visual edit lab. So anyway, when I'm looking at launching the visual edit lab, fun graphic that we create in Canva, easy to do, and grab some attention. And so you can do things like that. So you'll see me with this bluish, I don't know what the official name is, we'll call it bluish navy color here. And then also, here's another one. And this one, actually, I thought I was sharing with you it's a still one, but I also made it into a fun video, which, let's see, we'll grab, I don't know where I did that at. Well, we'll get the still shot. I don't want to take up any more time on that. But it just shows you when you find your colors in your brand, how you can quickly look more professional, do some fun things and those and share. And there's so many fun things in Canva that can take your brand and your template, make a little more professional each and every time you open yourself to learning something new. So I want to leave you with one final thought before we open it up to questions, and then I'll put my links in the comments so you guys can find me. Most people think they need more content, more posts, and more strategies, but often the real need isn't more activity is stronger alignment so that you can feel confident. Like my social media posts are set for the month. I went in, I've done them all. So I am just responding and reacting to conversations that I've already planned for the month. I'm not going, oh my gosh, it's National Camera Day or something like that. I need to make a post. My posts are set. So that's going to give you a stronger alignment and you're going to feel more put together and ready to tackle anything that comes in your inbox. So alignment between who you are becoming and how you communicate your value and how your brand shows up in the world is what we want. Strong and professional looking in your area. And when those things come together, growth becomes much more natural. Sometime later today, I would encourage you to take a look at your profile, your bio, your online presence with fresh eyes. And if you have Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest, YouTube, take a look at all of them and make sure you're showing up so that if somebody lands on one versus the other, they know they're with the same person and they're like, oh, who's this? Uh, and ask yourself, does this reflect the leader I am today or the one I used to be? Do I need a little brand tune-up? And check out your digital handshake. So thank you for spending this time with me today. I'm so grateful Heather invites me in here once a month to share with you on something I just love, and could go on and on about branding you. I could go to Canva, Google Forms, all those things are my jam. And it is as you find your hotspots, and I will steal this quote from Heather. She said, what could you talk about forever and not get paid? That's what you do well. And some of us think it's so simple. We're like, oh gosh, nobody's going to know about that. But they do. They really, really do. Right, Heather? And that's it for me. I'm going to stop talking and put my